seems
Okay.
to be,
They moved it up, huh? Why the police commission?
Because of this thing.
Okay.
okay. So I guess we can start. Everybody got the handouts? Okay, so, opening the town board meeting, I guess we have to go through the whole, the whole motion. We'll wait till you say the pledge. Dennis, so moved to open police commission meeting?
A second.
Paul, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Do you want to take? Do you
Roll
need to take a
call.
roll, do you need to take a roll call? I don't know.
Councilman Dennis Troy,
Present.
Councilman Tom Divany, Councilman Paul Valentine,
Here.
Councilman Jerry Vitari. Here. Supervisor Teresa Cannon.
Here. Okay, chief, you're up.
Supervisor, town board members, I gave you two documents tonight. The first one is the monthly and yearly summary for 2020 and for December. We went over the financial part last month because that was completed already. If you have any questions to go through it, I wanted to go over where we're at with the police reform and reinvention plan. I gave you a copy of a draft that we put together in the police department based on the meetings we've had and some of the stuff that we've done since the governor put out this mandate last year. So we've been kind of working on it. A lot of it is training stuff that we were able to start early on. It's pretty much a summary of what's been done, what's being required. Certainly there is other areas that we're going to add to the final report when we get to that. But this is stuff that I think will be helpful to you as a board in getting prepared to see a final document when we get to that point. If you look, actually Mr. Troy had mentioned to me earlier, he just saw that somebody had mentioned one of the people that handles this reform for the state said only about 25% of departments in the state are accredited, which we are one of those, which I think is we talked about that at the last police commission meeting. And I think that's very important in this process to help us to make sure that we're doing what we should be doing and expand what we're doing to assist our community and the members of our community as needed. At the inside, there is a table of contents to kind of help you go through some of the areas that we did cover. It'll help a little bit. If you go right down, I'm just going to touch very briefly on it, but some of the mandated reforms are civil penalties for falsely reporting a member that is of a protected class. That's something that came out that would cover something that somebody calls and basically reports that somebody's suspicious or whatever, doing something wrong, and they're in a protected class, and that's basically the only reason that they're doing it. So they don't like a certain group or person that's in their area, and they call the police. That is now a crime, made a crime in New York State. We've conducted some training on that to assist our officers to understand that. It's helpful for us, though, too, with our dispatchers, because they get the calls, and they now need to know that they need to ask further information from somebody if they do kind of report something along those lines. Sometimes people aren't intentionally doing that. You ask a few more questions, you realize there is something wrong that's going on, and they need to be looked at. But if you were to have a call and you say something that appears like it is in violation of this, and we don't look further into it, then the person could be putting themselves into some type of jeopardy. So the goal here is to protect people of the protected classes.
Do they define the protected class?
I'm sorry?
Is the protected class defined?
It is. I don't have it included here, but it is. I don't want to give it. I don't have all of the protected class, but it has to do with race, religion, and some other things. I don't want to omit something there. Require the reporting of police acts or omissions resulting in a person's death to the Office of Special Investigation. That is something that we've done. We've explained to our officers. What happened prior to just recently is it was the district attorney's responsibility to notify the Attorney General of this. They've changed it that now it's the police department's responsibility to notify the Attorney General of anything that falls into these violations, I shouldn't say violations, not violations, these acts that were committed. Whether or not they were appropriate or not, the Attorney General now will be charged with investigating those. Require police officers to report the discharge of weapons. We've always had that in our policy, and our agency's in compliance with it, but they codified it at the state level that, now, they have to do within a certain amount of time, they have to make certain reports. Banning of chokeholds, I went over this last month as well, but we're in compliance with it. One thing that we have never, in all of my time, I've never been instructed on how to use it, to utilize a chokehold. So we did codify to make sure our general orders in that were in compliance with the state, and it was actually an accreditation standard that was changed to make sure that we do that. Require a medical response for arrestees. With that, we had to change one of our general orders, so we have a new process on how we handle that. Not that we weren't doing it, but we had to put it in a general order to explain, for what people needed to do it. And you have to provide reasonable and good faith medical assistance. I actually went over that with Mr. Magrino when we put that procedure out as well. He assisted us with that. We require policing statistics to be reported to the Division of Criminal Justice. We've always been in compliance with that. We do those reports through e-justice. That's how the state gets notified of it. Reporting of law enforcement activity, it's something that we have put out. It's a law that they codified in New York State as well, that if a private citizen a private civilian is recording the police activities, it's now, I never thought that we were allowed to take somebody's stuff when they were doing that, but they've made it part of the policy and of the state of New York that you can not take, somebody's private property if they're filming the police. But we gave instruction on that to the officers just to make sure that they, they understand those. It's never a bad idea to reinforce that, but we've never made that one of our practices to take people's recordings. Duty to intervene, we did talk about that last month as well. We've complied with this duty to intervene through the New York State accreditation standard. We also took guidance from the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services model policy and amending our use of force general policy, which we're just finishing up. Actually, I went through it with some of the people in the department that, to get their thoughts on that, and we'll be putting that out shortly. And once that gets done, we will be, we do have our current use of force policy is posted as per state mandate, but we will replace it with the newer policy that is in conformance with all this. For training, we updated our use of force training. We expanded our in-service use of force training to include de-escalation and improve upon our use of force tactics. All training is in compliance with the New York State use of force model policy. We updated de-escalation training. That's being done through the police academy, and we do bring it into our use of force as well. When we have training, it's being we try and get de-escalation into as many different types of training that we have, whether it's on how to deal with an interaction on the street, whether it's arresting somebody. We try and bring that training into all these areas as much as possible. If you look at the next one, communication, it is something we have done for a number of years, but we have a program that we have that assists us if we have difficulty speaking to somebody on the phone, or if we're at a call and they're having trouble speaking to somebody with a different language. We can call this hotline and they interpret for us. It's a service that we've done for a long time, right? Probably.
Ever since we got 911.
Yeah, so it's been something that we do. When we do utilize it once in a while, it's needed, but like I said, sometimes even out in the field, we can call in and they can connect us with the group and they'll translate for us, so it does help us with that. What we did, and actually it was another one that we discussed with Mr. Magrino last year, actually in 2019, the governor's group had come out saying that they didn't feel that putting mug shots and stuff was a good idea because people are only being charged with the crime. So what we did at that time is we took all our mug shots off of our social media, and we haven't been doing it since. The only time we would do it, and this was included in in the governor's guidance as well, was that if there's an overriding concern for public safety, whether it's somebody that is wanted, or if it was such a noteworthy case that you might want to put it out there, that there could be other, I'll give an example. If it was somebody who may have been committing acts against children or something, and you don't know if you get, you want to put that message out, that maybe others can come forward or something, that would be a reason why you would not have any problem with it. So it's not against the law to have the photos out, but we've changed our policy in doing that. Diversity on our police force. Diversity entails other characteristics as well as including religion, language, life experience, sexual orientation, and other cultural background. If you look at our write-up there, it's we certainly follow all mandates from New York State Civil Service and the Rockland County Department of Personnel on hiring and promotions. The police exam's given every 4 years. The one that was supposed to be given in 20 is now being moved. We're hopeful that it's going to be given in the spring, but we did participate in some county recruitment. We did create our own. I don't know if you saw our Facebook, we had it in 4 different languages every day for about the last 2 weeks prior to the exam. We had put it out about a month prior to the exam. We did send these flyers to, if you look in there, I just want to get the number right, distributed to 56 houses of worship throughout the town of Orangetown, the local businesses, the libraries, town and village halls, volunteer fire services and emergency medical services, and we had it on the town social media as well as the police departments. And we're looking forward. We're hoping that maybe some of the people in the committee and some of their ideas can help us for the 2024 exam as well. I don't know how the county is going to handle the 2020 exam. I believe what they did was froze the people that applied to that, so that's just going to get carried to when they give the exam. I don't believe they're going to reopen applications for that. So I believe that recruitment to get more people to take that exam that is probably going to be given in the spring, recruitment for that isn't going to help. But we did do a lot. If you see, we do have records of what we did as a department, trying to get the message out to some of our areas that aren't usually represented well in the department that we have. So you have to take the exam.
Chief, is that decision about not opening up to new people, is that a local personnel, Rockland County personnel decision, or do you know if it comes?
I believe it's Rockland County personnel decision. And I haven't gotten official word on that yet, but that's what I believe how they're handling it. Because we haven't got official word that they're going to give the exam in the spring yet anyway, so until they come out with that.
Chief, how long do they usually give you to prepare for the exam? Or is there like
I believe they usually post it about 2 months prior.
2 months.
To file for the exam 2 to 3 months prior. But it's a cycle that they're on. Like, we know the next one, other than what happened this year, we know the next one is in 2024. So people they know that the exam's going to be in 2024 now. But actually signing up, it's usually anywhere from about 3 to 5 months before the exam that they announce it, and they give a period of time to sign up for it. Okay. And I believe they have some type of a standard that they need to, it has to be posted for X amount of time and stuff like that. So, but the county personnel handles all of that. Increase the police department's procedural justice and diversity training. The Rockland County Police Academy in our 2021 annual in-service training will provide DCJS certification for procedural justice for all officers who complete this block of instruction, which is something that we will be sending all of our officers to. And we actually, I believe it's 2 officers we have trained to be instructors as well in procedural justice. So we have sent them this past year to get that training to be instructors. Public and community relations, electronic outreach. We're trying to provide as much information as we can on our media platforms. Currently, the community can find a method of communicating with the police department in the way that they feel most comfortable. The community can call the police department, email the department. In non-emergency communication, they can send a Facebook message. Some people still, we have an automatic message to them, we'll send something about, complaining about something that's happening at that moment. A message does pop up to them that they should call the police department because that's not monitored 24/7. They can also use, if they want to give information about criminal activity or such, they can send something to a confidential tip 411 initiative, and we included that on the link to that. We're involved with Hope Not Handcuffs. I know that was when the supervisor was just coming in, we had the groundbreaking ceremony
Yep,
on that.
that's
with
right.
the Hope Not Handcuffs. There's a lot of information on that. As far as how many people use it or not, that's not something we would ever keep statistics on and that we're involved with, but people can contact them directly. We do post that from time to time on our social media to let people know, as well as we have it out here in the lobby on our monitor there. It goes through, so people, we would figure if people came to meetings or had court or such, they might be able to get some info if it would assist them. Drug court, one thing, just, I see a clerical error we missed. It says, since 2014, the Orangetown Judge Patrick Loftus has presided over the Rockland County. It's the Rockland County misdemeanor drug court that he's presided over. Now, there's a misdemeanor and a felony drug court, but that's we omitted the word there. But it shows Orangetown is heavily involved in these outreach and diversion projects throughout the county. And that's, the misdemeanor and felony drug court is for the entire county. So any of the cases that get sent on misdemeanors come to the town of Orangetown court to be handled by Judge Loftus. And it is a way to actually get all criminal charges dismissed if you comply with all the mandates that they put them through. And they've actually here, they've had their graduations here in Town Hall from time to time. And it's a pretty powerful program that they have when you see somebody that went through successfully and graduated and kind of have their, put their life back on track. Victims of domestic violence and sexual assault assistance, we just added information to our general orders just to make it more current. But we do work hand in hand with the Center for Safety and Change and the New York State Office of Victim Services. We have information there. The officers provide that to people who are involved in situations where it could assist them.
Chief, you'd like to go back for a sec on this?
Absolutely.
On this section here, we have the drug court. Now, is youth court something that should be included there, or something that?
Of course. Absolutely should. I don't think we have it somewhere else, but it definitely
Okay,
should be.
okay. I mean, it seems like it fits in with those other programs,
Yep.
but
And actually, in
one of
way,
my
Dare
favorite
probably-
programs that
Dare.
we had, so.
I'm sorry?
No, that was.
No, I just said, yeah, Dare.
Yeah, Dare and that, so there is other, but like I said, this is kind of a working document.
Yeah,
here
yeah, no,
That we, but I appreciate that, but we, that certainly will be included. I'm sorry?
Yeah, but that's,
That's an outside
that, yeah, that's, I
program.
wouldn't, youth court is just something that, what's that? Well, yeah, but that's.
Actually, the Substance Abuse Committee probably could be part of some of the.
Well, these are kind of like what they call diversionary programs, so the youth court is like, instead of them going through the criminal justice system, they go to the youth court, right?
Transparency and accountability. As part of some of the meetings that we had, it was brought up by Pastor McLaughlin, actually, that, he felt that it wasn't as easily accessible if somebody wanted to make some type of complaint about it, an action and interaction with an officer. So the one thing we added to that process is that everything is on the website now, so they can get it without having to actually come first to the police department. If somebody doesn't feel comfortable, they can call us, they can email us, they can get the forms online, or they can come in directly. So we just tried to make that more accessible to us. And we actually also, which I think is very important as well, we did add a section if they wanted to commend an action an interaction that they had with officers as well, that we feel that we did see some other departments have those as well on their websites. We felt that was something that would be important as well. Police activities to...
Steve, I just got a question.
Of course.
Going forward, so if you get a complaint online and it's anonymous, how do you judge the credibility of the complaint? Or do you have to leave your name?
You don't have to leave your name. We could look into it. It would depend what the allegation is. We would always look into anything that somebody alleges, because
Okay.
it could be an issue, but it's certainly, you know, the more information we have, the more we can get to.
I think you're gonna see more coming from the committee on recommendations for this too. I think this is just the
Okay.
first.
No, I'm just
I think the
saying-
chief was proactive. One of the things that became apparent was that, you know, someone may not wanna come into the police department, so they kind of jumped onto that immediately
Right.
to, you know.
No, it's great. The only thing is, it can be used to, you know, like against an officer that you have a bone to pick with,
Yeah,
and,
but it's like I said, we're lawyers.
Yeah.
We know what it's like. Someone,
Yeah.
you know, they go on, they can file a complaint against you like that.
Right.
It's just part
But
of
we
it.
would always look into it,
No,
because
I'm
you'd
just-
never know if it's
And we know
legit
they're
till
all
you look at
false, so when you file
But-
against, you know.
But yeah, that's what we did, but it certainly would, you know, the more information you have when you
Yeah.
look into something, it's always, you know. Sometimes people do make complaints, and it actually, after they discuss it with a supervisor or whoever, they sometimes realize that what happened made sense or
Okay.
or whatever. So it does, you know, the communication is always helpful, even for us. Sometimes we may think that originally that the action that we took was correct, but then we find out, you know what, maybe it wasn't, or maybe it was a training issue, or maybe we can get something that can better the department in the communication. So it's not always a negative thing or a negative, you know,
not saying
result.
that, it just. it's-
No, yeah, right, but I'm just saying, so it's always good to get the information.
Okay.
Police activities, this gets into kind of the FOIL process and how people can get the information. And also, we do, through our e-justice portal, we do send our reports monthly to the state, and they do, I believe it's the Part 1 crimes, right, Jim, that get posted yearly for the agencies that do send the info. The state, that site's on this as well.
I can tell you, the FOIL process is pretty good. You know, I did one today, you get an email back from the town after they process it immediately, so you,
What were you foiling?
the building department records for a client of mine,
Yeah,
but
they did streamline that
they
process.
streamlined it.
Yeah.
The thing is, at least you get an email back and you know that the town received it, so you have a paper trail, so you can say, I requested this FOIL on this date.
Right.
You know, like, a lot of people selling their houses want to make sure that they have no issues with violations and stuff, so they have me FOIL it beforehand, so we can deal with it.
Right. So,
But-
yeah, it did.
So,
That was one of the things, they actually did a lot of improvement on that with COVID to try and get, because people weren't able to come in, so they worked
Right.
with, I know
I
with
think
IT and with the
really
records
good,
people
really
did.
good.
Yeah, to try and help people from not having to come in. They get a lot more foils now, though.
I know,
But
well, that's what
that-
happened when you open it up, yeah.
It's a lot easier, which is fine, that's, you know, it's what it's there for. Policies and procedures, I won't go through the accreditation that we discussed last month, but, you know, in summary, we've been accredited since 2007, and we continue that through today. Mental health and crisis intervention training and procedures. We look to continue and improve our professional working relationship with the Route County Behavioral Health Response Team and the newly formed Children's Community Assistance Response and Endangerment Team to help provide non-police focused support to persons in crisis. And if you go to Appendix D, it just shows the behavioral health response program. It explains that a little bit. And then officer wellness is the last section, and in that we discussed the town's EAP and what the town has done to get this program for all employees of the town. But it is helpful. I know, you know, a couple of people that have actually told me that they've used it, and I'm sure there's many more that use it, and, you know, confidentially, which is what it's there for. But it's an excellent program. And then just the appendix, I don't know how to say it, appendixes? They, you know, you just have them, that just corresponds with some of the earlier information that we had mentioned. Appendix B talks about some of the academy training that we have that Chris Stratner had talked about. C is our accreditation, and D is the behavioral health response group. So that's kind of in a nutshell what you have in
Can I
front
just
of you.
ask a quick question, which I don't know why I've never asked this before now, but just going through here? Does either the DCJS, if I'm saying that right, or the governor, is there anything about body cameras, good, bad, do, don't do?
I know in the past, when we've looked into it, the biggest issue by far was the cost.
Which the governor does acknowledge in his paperwork that
Yeah,
all of these things
it's-
may have a cost,
I
right?
mean, it's the cost, and there's a big cost in human resources in managing it and reviewing and things such as that. So there is a big thing there. So far, he hasn't mandated it on departments. I don't know if maybe, I won't say, there's a lot of money being floating around in the
Yeah,
federal government.
yeah.
Maybe
No,
that
it's just, I hadn't seen anything, I was
some
more
could come
curious
this
than
way.
anything.
But, you know, I would think, I know from talking to IT, I know the space, and I'm not, you know, good with that, with how much space is needed to
Right,
keep this
right, to
stuff.
keep it, yeah,
To keep
I
it
know.
forever, and, you know, there's things
It's always
with
more
that.
complicated than you think.
Yeah, so, but that, right now, there hasn't been anything directed, that you have to do it. But I don't know where, you know, I haven't heard anything coming down the pike in the short term.
Okay. Anybody have questions for the chief?
No?
Dennis has been involved in it.
No.
Just, we are on Facebook Live, so for anybody, on the 16th, we are having another public virtual meeting where the public can comment, you know, on what's happened so far. We have an April 1 deadline to have this board approve the plan. We're working diligently. And that's all I have.
I said it the last meeting, and I'll say it here, if it's on Facebook or whatever. You know, Teresa, the supervisor, and the chief, Captain Shannon, and also Dick Whalen from the PBA. I'm very impressed with the meetings themselves, and I haven't necessarily gotten that feedback from, there's no negative feedback from a lot of the participants that have been in. There's been good questions, but to me, it's been very transparent, very open, and from my perspective, I'm proud of what OPD does here in this town.
Thank you.
And I will say, as somebody who has been involved around the town and with the police department since I started, I learned a lot. I learned a lot. I had no idea. I didn't know about the behavioral response team. I didn't, you know, so it was very informative. For people who took the time to follow it, it was informative, so. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. So again, I just wanted to give you kind of, you know, the supervisor and I discussed it. We felt it would be a good idea to catch the town board up on kind of where we've gotten to this point.
I mean,
Thank
there's
you.
not too many people from the public here, but does anybody want to speak on this, on the police reform at all? No?
All right?
Okay, good.
Okay.
Perfect timing.
All right, thank you.
Chief,
Motion to adjourn the
Captain.
police commission.
thank you. A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, guess we can open up the meeting and just do our announcements. We have some presentations that were,
Are they coming down or not?
yeah, I think they're coming, right? They're not here, okay, well, we'll start, we'll just come back to them if we have to come back to them. We'll just let them say the Pledge of Allegiance, but, okay. Okay, so welcome to the regular town board meeting of February 9th, 2021, on a roll call.
Councilman Dennis Troy,
Present.
Councilman Tom Divany,
Here.
Councilman Paul Valentine,
Here.
Councilman Jerry Vitari. Here. Supervisor Teresa Tenney.
Here. Okay, we're going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Troy, will you start us? For Esther. I'll get in trouble. Well, Allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Okay, we got some announcements here. We are going to have our shredding day on May 1st from 8 to 12, free shredding at the town hall held by the town clerk's office. They'll also be accepting non-perishable foods or cash donations for people to people. And there's just a limit of 3 boxes per person and no businesses. The 2021 Military Tribute Banner Program is opened. We have had a huge response, so if anybody's interested, you better get in because we're running out of spots. But anyway, the flags go up between Memorial Day and Veterans Day, and we have them in all the hamlets, so if you're interested, there's still time. We are going to have 2 presentations, but our honorees are not yet here. Oh, they're here? They're making a grand entrance? Perfect timing, ladies. Come on up to the front here. So I'm going to start. Tonight, we are very lucky to have 2 of my favorite people here to recognize and honor for their achievements. First, we're going to acknowledge and congratulate Dr. Frances Pratt on her retirement after 40 years serving as the president of the Nyack NAACP. And then next, we'll honor South Nyack resident Tracy McLeod as part of our Black History Month celebration. I'll read a couple words, then I'll give you your certificates. As Dr. Pratt is a legend, there's not much that I can say that has not already been said about her, except that I can tell my personal story about meeting and getting to know Dr. Frances Pratt. Although I knew of Dr. Pratt, I actually only met her in 2019 during the campaign for town supervisor. We were introduced at the NAACP gala at the Pearl River Hilton, and within minutes of meeting her, I immediately knew that I liked her, with her warm smile and her beautiful big hat. When I told her my sister was a nurse at Nyack Hospital, a place where she had worked for 53 years, her smile got even bigger. It was clear to me that she was, rightfully so, very proud of her work at Nyack Hospital and was very much fond of the nurses she mentored. Trust me, in speaking to my sister about Dr. Pratt, the feelings are very mutual. Being new to politics, I often found myself at large events feeling somewhat uncomfortable and out of place. Then I would see Dr. Pratt and her smile, and I would instantly feel comforted. She would always greet me like we were long-lost friends, and whether by instinct or just someone who had been around politics for a very long time, she always knew just what to say to make me feel better. In her calm, ladylike voice, she would say something like, and trust me when I tell you I'm paraphrasing, always do what you think is right, and then trust that the Lord has a plan for you. The funny thing about it is that I walked away feeling so much better. What I heard in my head was, girl, you got this. It takes a very special person to be able to do what Dr. Pratt did, to make someone that they only knew for a short time feel so much better, for knowing exactly what I needed to hear in that moment. It is a gift and is a sign of a true leader. I can say without hesitation that I am forever appreciative of Dr. Pratt's kindness and her help and her guidance when I needed it most, and for her friendship, which I will treasure forever. So I want to tell Dr. Pratt to go and enjoy her well-deserved retirement. Something tells me that you will not be sitting around looking for things to do. And on that note, I will end by thanking Dr. Pratt for her service to our community and telling her it is okay to relax and enjoy some time, as she certainly has earned it. So thank you. Anybody want to say that? No? I have a certificate. I'm going to get some pictures. Me with the beautiful lady in the hat. A socially distant picture.
To Supervisor Kenny and to the town board, I'm wearing red for 2 reasons. Number 1, this is hard month. And number 2, I'm wearing it in congratulation to the town board for having the heart to think of me. I would just like to say the words of Cahill. He said, you give little when you give of your possessions. It's when you give of yourself that you truly give, and that's my calling.
Next, in recognition of Black History Month, every February the town board honors a resident of Orangetown for his or her achievements and contributions to our community. This year, I'm proud to honor my friend Tracy McClee. With over 20 years of fundraising, public relations, and marketing experience in raising funds for nonprofits and charities throughout our region, including healthcare, higher education, and social service, Tracy has raised millions of dollars and created strong, long-lasting relationships to benefit the charities under her visionary leadership. I actually met Tracy a few years ago via email when she was working for the Center for Safety and Change, and I was working with the Rockland Roadrunners, helping to organize the Women's Distance Festival race, a race that the club holds every year to raise financial support and awareness for the Center for Safety and Change. It was a few years later before I actually met Tracy when a mutual friend introduced us. It did not take me too long to realize that this was the same Tracy, especially after my friend called her, very complimentary, the fundraising machine. It should come to no surprise that Tracy realized the power of fundraising while attending Nyack Junior High School when she and her friends hosted a karaoke party and raised more than $500 to help earthquake victims in California. Tracy credits this with igniting her fundraising passion, which eventually led her to her current position, Executive Director of the Montefiore Nyack Hospital Foundation. But being a professional fundraiser is just not enough for Tracy. She also volunteers for local organizations, helping them to realize the power of philanthropy. She's a current board member of the Center for Safety and Change and the Nyack Gala, where she is known for revamping their annual Legacy Gala. With her help, they increased revenue from $10,000 annually to a six-figure event in 1 year. Having been at the gala last year, this is a good time to mention that in addition to all of this, boy, can that girl sing. But Tracy will tell you that she is most proud of being mom to honor her 9-year-old daughter and her work at the Upper Nyack Elementary School PTA, where she was co-founder of the first Diversity and Inclusion Committee in Nyack, in the school district called IDEA, Inclusion, Diversity, Equity, and Advocacy. In accepting this honor tonight, Tracy wanted to express how important philanthropy is and how everyone should give back, however he or she can. She also wanted to acknowledge her parents, her dad, Archie, a second-generation Teamster, and her mom, Nancy, a respiratory nurse, who retired after 30 years at Montefiore Nyack. Tracy credits her dad, who has unfortunately passed, with teaching her to remain humble, but always be proud of who you are, and that no matter how successful you become, to never forget where you live, to love thy neighbor, to always see the silver lining, and to always fight for what is right in the community. Tracy, your dad was a very smart man, and he raised an incredible daughter. To honor, you should be very proud of your mom, because I know as her friend that I am. Congratulations, and thanks for all that you do for the community.
Just one quick thing. I don't know if Tracy's going to say this, but I'm on a committee with Tracy. I'm on the Nyack Montefiore Board of Trustees. And Tracy had come over from the Center for Safety and Change just recently and has been given the duty or the responsibility for celebrating the 125th anniversary of Nyack Hospital. And there's going to be there's a fundraiser going on, and it's going to be celebrated at Boulder Stadium next September. And they're trying to raise $500,000, and they got the right person in charge of this. Tracy has done a super job starting on it, and I'm sure it'll culminate in success. So, Tracy, keep up the good work.
Anybody?
Thank you. This is so quiet. This is like the first board meeting I've been to. Everyone's been so quiet. But thank you, Supervisor, and Dennis, and Thomas, and Paul, and Jerry. It's so nice to put the face with the name and see you in person and not on social media. And the mask. But thank you for your kind words. It really was so heartfelt and touching, and this is so unnecessary. But I do want to say that, you know, philanthropy has been a part of my life since I was a child, and it starts at home. And, you know, I'm raising my little one to be the same, taking her to the food pantry and all those sorts of places, to always be humble and always realize that you have enough. When you think that you don't, look around you, you all have enough. So, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
And next year, I'm going to have you come back and sing. Okay. Okay, so next we're going to have a presentation on the Orangetown Health Emergency Plan by Officer Mike Yanazone Jr.
Hi, good evening Supervisor Kenny, Town Board members. I come before you tonight as the chair of the Orangetown Emergency Management Committee. On September 7th, 2020, Governor Cuomo signed legislation requiring public employers to create plans to protect its employees and contractors in the event of another public health emergency declaration in New York State. The requirement for these plans applies to all local, county, and state government entities, including authorities and public benefit corporations. This law serves as an amendment to New York State labor law. School districts are included as well. However, their requirement is implemented through school safety plans as per New York State education law. This law is intended to identify lessons learned from our current coronavirus pandemic and address several identified preparedness gaps. Plan requirements include the listing of essential functions and positions within the town, protocols for facilitating and enabling remote work, description of how the town could stagger work shifts, protocols for the procurement, storage, and distribution of personal protective equipment, protocols for employee exposures and exhibition of symptoms, leave policies, protocols for supporting contact tracing efforts, and protocols for identifying emergency housing for employees if needed. This law further directs the New York State Department of Labor to establish protocol, website, and hotline for anonymous reporting by public employees or contractors of alleged violations of any law, regulation, rule, or guidance related to occupational health and safety involving a communicable disease. On November 10th, 2020, following a previous meeting with Supervisor Kenny, this law and plan were introduced to the members of the Orangetown Emergency Management Committee to coordinate the drafting of the town plan. A planning team was assembled consisting of the town supervisor, town attorney, town department heads, labor union officials, and myself as our emergency management coordinator. This team first met on December 3rd, 2020, for an introductory orientation of the plan's requirements and to outline the timetable to compile needed information. The planning team met for a second time on December 16th, at which time necessary information was brought forth and discussed. Since that time, with assistance of and review by the men and women serving on the Emergency Management Committee, I compiled much of the required information into a draft form of a 23-page plan. I come before you today to report for the public record that on January 25th, 2021, said draft was submitted to the town supervisor's office for further review, consideration, and development. The current deadline for town adoption of this law and of this plan is April 1st, 2021. In closing, I would like to extend my deepest thanks and appreciation to Supervisor Kenny for involving the Emergency Management Committee in this process, as well as to the planning team leadership from throughout the town and the members of the Emergency Management Committee for their time and assistance with this plan's development. Please know, our committee continues to meet monthly in close cooperation with our fire and EMS partners to discuss and address issues of united preparedness concerns for our town and to maintain readiness of our town emergency operations plan and emergency operations center to respond if and when needed. We look forward to an after-action review of our current health emergency and remain ready to coordinate, collaborate, and communicate with all proper authorities and personnel to address and resolve emergent situations within our community. Thank you all for your time this evening, and I will remain available to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
I don't have a question, but I have to thank Officer Yanazone for taking the lead on this. With so much going on with the police reform and everything, it was just one more thing that the governor threw at us. And so he took control, and he kind of corralled us and said, this is what we have to do. And he did a great job, and I want to thank you for that. The other thing I want to say is that if we get hit with another pandemic after this, I will be on an island, never to be seen again, and I'm not going to worry about what's in this plan. That's all I'm going to say.
Thank you.
Okay, no comments on that? You know, I'll just also real quickly say that, you know, doing the plan, it was a lot of work or whatever, but really what we did was we took what we did on the fly during the pandemic and kind of made it a plan. And I have to thank all the department heads who, when they worked through the pandemic, it was very strategic. We didn't just, you know, go whatever. And so it kind of laid the groundwork for what we're doing. So it worked once. We're hoping if it never needs it, it will work again. So thank you again, Mike, and thanks to the department heads. Okay, so we're going to workshop the agenda items. I guess we'll discussion real quick. We have, I guess we're going to discuss this now. Is Jane here, out in the hall? Jane?
Paul, is this on? Mike? All right, I can't tell.
Sorry, I wasn't loud enough, huh? Okay.
I got sideswiped coming in. I didn't hear what you were saying.
Okay. We have as a discussion item this whole issue of the size of the shed and the permit. So I know when we talked, there was other considerations that I know I hadn't thought about. So I just figured we can have a conversation and then we can decide which direction we want to go. This is basically, right now, if you have a shed, 10 by 10 or less?
10 by 10 or less.
Yeah,
You do not need a permit. You
don't
100
need a
square
permit.
feet or
Okay.
less, and, you know, a standard shed is normally about 96, 98 square feet
Okay.
that you would buy from a local.
So there's been a proposal to consider increasing that to 144, right?
Well, we started doing on-site inspections, and more people are getting hit with violations because they bought their properties before we did on-site inspections. So I spoke with Rob, and I went through the state code to see what the state code, and I compared it to Orangetown code to see where there were differences. New York State code allows you to have a shed up to 144 square feet without getting a permit. Orangetown has their code at 100 square feet. With retaining walls, there is no limit on the height of a retaining wall. In Orangetown, it's 2 feet. Anything more than 2 feet, you'd have to get a permit for. And then there was things about replacement of roofs, when you need a permit, when you don't. And these are items that you're going to see since we changed the law. You're going to have more and more residents getting hit with violations, and more residents having to spend money when they originally bought, they got a letter that said there's no violations based on a paper search. But now we have the town going out and actively going to the property. And I think, we should work to make it so certain things are not violations when the town goes out there. So there is a big difference. If you get hit with a violation, it could cost you $3,000 if you have to remove the shed. I just had a person remove a shed. It cost them $3,000 off the purchase price because they had reduced the price because that's what they wanted for. And Teresa is someone, and Rob as attorneys that do a lot of real estate in the town, you're going to see it more and more. I've had 4 instances of where sellers had issues with on-site inspections on sheds alone this month. So that's the reason I've spoke to Paul about it. And, I think that if the state says it's okay, then we can go by the state, which we do a lot of that with the town code already. So that's why we're here tonight, for this reason.
I mean, I honestly don't have a strong feeling about sheds, but,
They still have to meet the rest of the code requirements.
right, which is I
Additions to
think
the
what kind of
property line.
worries me, though. If people think, oh, I don't need a permit, they're not going to ask the next question. That's the only kind of concern I have, is that people,
I mean, right now, a lot of people don't ask that question anyway, but
Yeah.
let's be
That's
honest.
a bigger problem.
But if the state says we can have sheds that are
Yeah,
144
I'm not-
square
you know,
feet,
I just,
I think
I
that
don't
we
have
should
any
allow
strong feelings.
the residents to do it.
Right.
Okay.
So that, what Tom is referencing is from, I believe, 2007 in the administrative section of the state code, which is section 1203. It used to be that the code listed specific requirements as to what needed permits and what didn't. Section 1203 is more of a broad administrative section, which I did share. I think Rob forwarded everybody that email. So with that said, the difference between 100 square feet and 144 square feet
There's
is a
44 square
big
feet.
difference.
44 square feet.
44% more. So,
But it's allowed by the state.
okay, when, state code, state building code is different than zoning.
But
So, well, Tom, but I want the board to consider that. That's very different. So when you look at some of our smaller lots, we have many lots in the town that are under 10,000 square feet in area. If you have all of those lots now putting up sheds that are 144 square feet, that's a small garage. So as far as zoning, and again, this is what we're talking about, zoning. Forget about building code.
okay.
Think about zoning and what that does to our zoning. That is the question here. And again, it's up to the board, but consider those small lots. Now, say I own a house on a lot that's only 7,000 square feet. That's tiny. And now all of a sudden, my neighbor puts up a shed that's 10 by 14 right on the property line, or a couple of feet off the
5
property
feet.
line. Now, I'm looking, so again, it's not only the question of the size of the shed, it's what it does from a planning principle overall to the different zones within the town. So what I would ask is that the board look at it as, depending on maybe what size lot you're on, maybe that dictates the size of the shed. And again, that's from a planning principle,
So I
and
got a
what that
question.
impact would have on the neighborhood as a whole.
If you're in a RG zone, can you get a shed 10 by 14?
You can if you also meet your floor area ratio.
But you can get it.
If you meet your floor area ratio.
And if you can't, you can go for a variance.
Correct.
So, and most likely, you're going to get approved for that variance.
I cannot say yes
I
or
would
no to
say
that.
yes, because
Well-
they've granted variances for those sheds
But that's subjective,
a
Tom.
ton
You know.
of times.
But a variance needs to be,
Means that you want people to spend more money on permits and on variances.
I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is I think the board needs to consider the planning principles with respect to the size of the shed. That's all I'm saying.
To me, it's just, the code allows it, New York State Code. If you are in an RG zone that has a smaller lot, you can get that shed. But if you spend the money for the permit and spend the money on attorneys for the variance and get an architect, if you spend 10 grand, you can get that variance.
Okay, so for a basic shed, number one, it's a basic permit. Number two, you don't need an architect or an engineer.
But people.
Number three, you don't need an attorney to do that either.
But
The zoning
people
board-
will hire attorneys because they're nervous. They always do.
Well, I understand that, but we, as a building department, we don't tell people they have to do that.
can I just?
And a lot of the sheds, which I know Teresa and I have talked about this, a lot of the sheds that come up on the title searches, if they're too big, we flag it. If they're smaller and we cannot tell where they are from the property line, because from the naked eye, you cannot make a determination whether or not a shed is in compliance with its setbacks. We just note it. We don't hold up, we don't note it as a violation. We say,
That
we
creates more
cannot determine
problems.
where the shed is.
That creates more
Okay.
problems, though,
Okay.
as a practical matter.
Okay, let's go, okay, time out here. Quick question. Did we look at any of the did we look at any of the towns and see,
Clarkstown is 100 square feet.
okay, but
Okay.
have you ever seen where they have different for different
Yes,
size lots?
Tons and tons. No, town of Brookhaven, all over Long Island,
They have that size?
144 square feet.
Right, and just at one point I want to mention, it's come up, but I think if you're not involved, it's hard to follow. You can get a shed for 144 square feet with a permit, is what Jane's saying. And Tom, the difference is, right now, you can get a 100-square-foot shed. You don't have to get a permit, as long as
Right.
it's portable, and again, it doesn't mean on wheels, obviously, but as long as it's theoretically movable and not attached,
Doesn't have a permanent
it doesn't have a foundation,
Right, it's not
you
right.
don't need a permit. So really, the difference is, I think, going back to the 44 square feet, does that, and again, on the RG, it could have an issue, but,
Well, and
you
again,
know,
I
but
think
it's a-
what's getting missed here, Rob, the building code, the state puts forth what's required for building code and construction. It's completely separate from zoning. They do not ever talk to each other. So that is what the board has to consider here. If the board wants to go with the 144, so be it. But it does affect floor area ratio. 100 square feet or less, we weren't counting it. Now 144. That is going to send, the floor area ratio up, which is something I know we've talked about a couple of times that maybe needs to be looked at again. I think to quickly make a decision on this might be.
Well, Daisy on for discussion, so this,
Well, I'm saying,
oh.
and these are, if I'm asked my opinion, these are the things I think the board needs to look at as a whole and the different areas of the town.
So if you don't count the 100 square feet, you're going to count the 144?
No.
We do anything over, now, if you read our code,
hell?
technically, you should count, because it says anything that's roofed over. But my understanding, and again, going back prior to me taking the position, was that sheds less than 100 square feet were not counted in the floor area ratio.
right. So presumably, if you made it 144, that would continue.
That would continue. And on the small lots, I think, from a planning perspective, that may be an issue. So that is just, again, just my opinion. Either way, it's either 100 or 144, but those are the things that I think need to be looked at. And we have a lot of properties that are undersized by our code.
Okay, we'll look at it.
Okay.
What about the retaining walls?
Retaining walls, I think I expressed this to Rob. I'm concerned structurally that needs to be reviewed. A 4-foot high retaining wall should have a permit.
But New York State, doesn't require it.
It's open-ended if you read the way they write it. It's basically
Clarkstown
subjective.
doesn't require it.
I'm sorry, say again?
Clarkstown doesn't require it. If you
It
look at their
does if
code-
it has a surcharge. If it has a surcharge. You know what that means, right? The
Yep.
surcharge, right?
Yep.
So depending on the slope. So I have many examples, which I'd be happy to share with the board. I can email to all of you. Different examples that different towns have put forth in determining whether or not you need a permit. So from a structural perspective, a 4-foot high retaining wall needs a permit.
According to you, but not the.
No, according to my
not New York
professional
State.
opinion, I've been doing this for 30 years,
Tom,
Tom.
are you proposing 4, none?
We
What are
ha-
you proposing?
I'm saying, you're saying 4 foot, but I'm just saying that when we've talked about the code before, you've said, well, New York State doesn't allow us to do it. So now I went through New York State code to see what we could do to make the process easier for the residents of this town. Because we get tons of calls about, when we're going to sell, I got to spend all this money, I bought the house. That's what it's about. It's about being equitable to the people in this town. And they're going to sell, they pay taxes in this town for 15, 20, 25 years. And by the way, now you gotta legalize that shed, or you're gonna lose money on the sale, or, it just makes it easier for people to deal with the town and know that, when I go to sell, they're gonna send someone out there. But, most people, and Paul, I think you would agree, the average size shed is not 10 by 10 anymore. I'd say it's more like 12 by 12, 12 by 10. That's what people are buying. Because a lot of people don't have garages in this town. A lot of people converted their garages.
But I think you're mixing two things that should not be mixed.
I'm not mixing
You have a
anything,
shed
Dave. I
with-
understand you don't want to do it, or you want to do it your way.
No,
The
Tom,
town
that's not
board's
fair.
considering a different way.
Listen, Tom, I was asked my opinion.
I
I'm not
know.
going to stand here and be attacked.
I'm not attacking you.
You
but-
are. It's not whether I want it or not. What I'm saying is, you have a shed. That's very different than a retaining wall. Retaining wall is structural, and I could probably give you 10 examples of retaining walls that are failing.
Oh, okay, but.
So
but-
those are separate and distinct issues. So you
Yes,
have a
they are,
shed
but-
and you have the retaining wall. So you can have the discussion on the shed. The discussion on the shed is whether or not, from a planning principle, that makes sense. And that's fine. Retaining walls, if you ask my opinion as a design professional, they should be permitted. That's all. That's my opinion. If you guys choose to do that, that's up to you. But to me, 30 years as a design professional, a retaining wall needs to
I
have
have
a
another
permit.
question. I don't know if I'm not following you two. but
That's
Right
all.
now,
It's
is it- if
they're
it's a
separate
retaining,
entities.
if the retaining wall is 2 feet or less, you don't need anything.
No, you
No.
don't need one.
A
Okay.
section
Well,
of
that's
our
right, it's at
code.
2 feet, okay.
Right. A section of our code, though,
Right.
does state
mean,
that if
no,
you're
I-
changing the grade.
Right, well, that's
by
my thing
2
with the
feet-
retaining walls, I think it gets more complicated.
Right.
than-
But again, it's 4 feet that puts you into that threshold of going to that next level.
But just to be clear, it does say less than 2 feet, you don't need it unless the wall supports the surcharge.
Correct.
So if it's less than 2 feet
And it
and
doesn't.
supports a
right.
surcharge, you
Right.
do need one. But again, if taking the language out, you just say unless it supports a surcharge. I mean, I guess, is there a height at which, just because of the nature of its height, it supports a surcharge? Or it's because it's near whatever it's near, whatever it's holding back?
It's variable. I mean, you
Yeah,
can
that's
have
like
a
an
retaining
engineering
wall
thing.
that, there have been some that are retaining walls that are 3 to 4 feet high, but they're garden walls. They've come before us with these new title searches. They're not retaining anything, so it doesn't get flagged. But it becomes subjective then. It's,
Right.
well,
So a retaining wall
what's
is
the
only if
slope
it's
and
over
what's not the slope? I mean, a retaining wall
Okay, let's
is
cut the
holding
baby, I'll give you the
back
shed.
something
I'll
structural.
give you the shed, let's move on.
So I think
Wall out, shed in.
Right, I mean,
Let's go.
just again, approach each one of them because they're individual creatures. They're not lumped together. So if you want to do the shed, do the
Right,
shed
you wanna bring
here,
up the roof while we're
then
at it?
address the retaining wall.
I don't know, I don't get it. We have clients that require to get surveys to do the roof, so,
Yeah, that doesn't happen anymore.
Right, that's right.
That has
We
been
dealt with
addressed.
that, that's been dealt with.
Yes, that's been dealt with.
Okay, so it's on for discussion. I mean, the board can discuss it, and if they're, then we put it on for public hearing, right? Is that what we have to do? It's
Yeah,
true,
I
we have
put
to
it on
re-
next time to set the public hearing.
Okay, okay. Thank you.
And I'll talk to Tom and Jane about both of them.
Okay, so we'll go through the agenda items real quick, hopefully. So number 3, I know this is your favorite. This is appointing liaisons to the committees and land use boards. So if you go through there, find your name. And if you're not happy, that means I did my job right.
We had the Parks and Recreation was meeting last Wednesday.
Yeah.
We're down 3 people, one left, the other 2.
That's the Parks and Rec Development Advisory Committee.
So I have resumes, I'll talk to Eric about it, we're gonna put 3
Well,
people on.
touch base with Kim, because we got a whole bunch too. I mean, you can go through them. We're not saying you have to hire, but just, we got a bunch. It was in the package that we gave you last
Yeah,
meeting?
no,
Oh, okay, okay.
I took them out.
Okay, good, okay. Yeah, we didn't appoint a lot of the committees yet. We waited, so,
Yeah, I'm just letting you know that we're
Okay.
down 3 and we're gonna
Okay.
look into it.
okay. Okay, perfect, thank you. We actually got a couple new members to the Shade Tree Commission. You'll be very happy to know, too. Okay. Well, he's the liaison, not you. Okay, reappoint the Blue Hill Golf Course Committee. I think, Paul, you were good with all these, right?
Yes.
We ran this by you. Reappoint Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. Dennis, you good?
Yes, I am.
Reappoint the Orangetown Traffic Advisory Board. I know we are good with this. I know Mike and Allison worked on this together. Reappoint the Orangetown Environmental Committee. This is me. Got a couple new members on there. Reappoint Michael Mandel to the Chairman of the Board of Ethics for a 1-year term. Accept State and Municipal Facilities Program grant for renovations to Cam Shanks Museum. I want to thank Allison for working on this. This was a carryover, something that we thought was in the works last year and it never got done, so she worked diligently with the Antonucci's to make sure that it got on for tonight, so thank you, Allison. Number 10, set the public hearing for a local law regarding dogs. So basically, we're changing the fees to be consistent with what our new shelter charges. Number 11, set the public hearing to change the hearing regarding signs, amending Chapter 2 of the Town Code regarding signs. This is our sign law that we worked diligently on, and for a very long time. Jane and Rob and Rick Picola and a bunch of us, Tom was in on it, on some of it. So it gets us in the backup, you might want to take a look at it. I'll just tell you right now, one of I guess the big changes is that We are not allowing signs in the right-of-way. So for all those election signs that people like to stick in the right-of-way, out. They're a mess. They're all over the place. No one cleans them up, so.
Right, I think just, we'll discuss at the public hearing, but this was, we were getting a lot of complaints about where, it's people posting signs, where they're posting them, how the size,
Our
et cetera.
sign law was
so
way outdated. It
this
was
kind
just
of
way outdated.
tightens it up, just so there's some guidelines.
Oh, and then you put your signs up, the election's over, those signs are in the right of way for
Right.
6
Yeah,
months.
yeah,
And it
yeah,
just looked horrible. And it
Yeah.
just seems like if someone put a sign in the right of way, there was 15 signs put in the right of way.
Right, right.
Just to say, hey, your sign's there, my sign's going there.
Right, right. You should have seen that, the middle divider here coming down on Orangeburg Road. It was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
it was terrible, and they were hanging over and they were there, or whatever, so. Listen, we all play by the same rules, it's all fair. Okay, so next one is secret, basically to declare ourselves, I guess, lead agency for the sign law. Number 13 is to approve the 2021 agreement with the Hudson Valley Humane Society. This is the shelter. We're making a move. Number 14, approve the 2021 certificate of sewer registrations. Number 15, approve the settlement on a tax certiorari. Tom, did you see this? This is the Palisade Swim Club. They got a lot, anyway. Yep. We have number 16, to appoint Brendan Califf as a police officer, and number 17, to appoint Andrew Duggan as a police officer. We are not doing any ceremony tonight. We will do it at a later point. Just between, we know family wants to come in with COVID and things like that, and we want him to be an officer and looking handsome so we can take pictures of him and stuff, so. Anyway, but we do congratulate them. We'll just have to have a more official ceremony a little later. Number 18, create the position of a clerk part-time in the building department. This was, we're all learning a lot about civil service now that Donna's not here, and we're all calling, we have Jeff calling, and we're calling and finding out all these new rules, but anyway. So anyway, we basically, it was a part-time position, which we had approved, but it needed to be created, and even though it's part-time, we still needed to create the position with the civil service. Highway number 19, approve the agreement for the exchange of highway monies related to the pavement preservation program and improvements. And this is, you see the next, we have the list of streets that are going to be, get the program. I think we do that every year. Number 20, approve the caretaker agreement for the 2021 Nike Park, 2% increase. And we have an accepted memorial bench donation to Vincent Mercogliano. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And there's what the engraving is going to say. Few words, a tremendous heart, love always the gang. So that's going to be placed at Broadacres Golf Course. Very, very nice. 22, authorize a payment to Applied Golf in full and final payment for the adjustments for 2020.
Yeah, Teresa, I just wanted to jump in. I know we discussed that a little bit. This is, if you recall, the contract calls for
Yes.
incentives and disincentives, et cetera. Jeff can comment, I believe it fell a little short at Blue Hill this year, or I should say last year for 2020. But again, we, the town board, shut them down for 3 weeks, if you recall, during the height of the pandemic. In addition to the shutdown for a lengthy period of time, we did not allow cart rentals. So, without getting into too much detail with respect to contracts, if we made it impossible for them to perform, it would be difficult to kind of hit them with the disincentive and not pay them. So that's what this payment is about, and I'll defer to Jeff on the amounts.
Yeah, and just in terms of the amounts there, the 75,000 isn't what they failed to meet in the goal. The goal was 2.6 million. They did 2.561 million. So they were $39,000 short. In April of that year, they did 83,000, which was down from 189,000. April is when we shut the course down for 3 weeks. In May, they did 341. So it's obviously, if we kept it open, kept the cart fees, they would have had that additional 39,000. So since, we didn't really allow them to operate for those 3 weeks, we negatively impacted their ability. So, and at the end of the day, it's not costing us another 75,000, it's costing us 19,000, because that's the shortfall. We have to pay them. 75,000 is the final payment,
but they earned 55, 56,000 of that with what they did already.
Plus, they were way above on.
Yeah.
And they were
My only question, Robert, is do we
$300,000
need to
above
say
on
anything in the
Broad Acres.
resolution
Yeah,
beyond this?
That's like 60% higher, so.
Or you think we're covered? You think we're covered?
I think we're covered, as you say, with all adjustments.
Okay, got it. Okay, that was the only question we had earlier. Okay, 23, amend the parking permit fees and regulations in downtown Pearl River. Again, this was something that was discussed during the budgets.
Right, well, on that,
Oh,
I don't know if
it's
it's
a different
discussed during the
one. Sorry,
budget.
different one.
We discussed with the
Oh,
town
yeah,
clerk's
that's
office.
right. We got Liz here to talk about
Right,
it.
and I asked Liz to come in,
Good,
Liz
because I-
Brancotti from our office to come in and discuss why we're making the changes.
I'll say, this was kind of spearheaded, the town clerk had brought to our attention that some of our fees for overnight parking and things were kind of too high, that nobody was getting them. So we decided we would review them kind of comprehensively, and there you go. And so Liz is going to give us an update.
Hello, everyone. Good evening, Supervisor and members of the Town Board. The proposed resolution offers a reduction in fees for all levels of permits and also tries to expand access to the 3 municipal parking lots in downtown Pearl River. A few weeks ago, like the supervisor has said, we had a meeting with Brian Connolly from Parking Enforcement, Supervisor's Office, Police Department, Highway Department, and the Town Clerk to discuss what these potential changes might be. And it's become especially apparent during the last year that with the reduced number of commuters using the Pearl River train station and those private lots close to the train station, our municipal lots were very much underused and often were empty. And a look back over the past few years to the clerk's office, we've sold very few parking permits for the lots. So the hope is that these changes may encourage residents and businesses to park in these lots on a daily basis and overnight, and it may free up spaces on the street to improve traffic to the area. There are 4 categories of permits. There's an overnight, a 24/7, and a municipal, which is sort of the day, all-day permit, as well as a merchant permit. The merchant permit, we're not suggesting any changes. It's $10 for the year, and people who work in the area can get that permit, but then they also have to feed a specific meter. They're colored yellow. They have to still feed the meter every day. And as for the other permits, there's 2 main changes. First, in the permit fees. The 24/7 parking permit fee is currently $600 a year, and I'm not sure that we've sold any of those. So the proposal is to reduce that to $300 a year for 24/7. Overnight is now $300. The proposal is to reduce it to $200, and the municipal, the daily rate, or the daily permit is $190 currently, and the proposal is to reduce it to $110. And then the other main change is that the overnight and 24/7 parking permit spaces are only in 1 parking lot right now. And the proposal is to expand it to all 3 lots in designated spaces that, conferring with the Highway Department, will still be able to remove snow if there's a snow emergency, but also part of the application process will be to collect information like cell phone numbers, email addresses, to communicate with people who might buy those permits so that they can move their cars in case of emergency. And that's really it. If you have any questions, I'm happy to.
Can you get, like, the permits online now, or you have to come in to the clerk's office?
I think you still have to come in.
All right, and the other one is, we've been getting a lot of snow lately, and I don't know if this is a question to you, but this is just an observation. You can't sometimes physically put quarters into the meters these days, and people are getting ticketed even though they can't get to the meter because there's about 3 feet of snow. I think in the future, we should let the parking authority know that until the snow is moved out, they shouldn't get ticketed. No, I got complaints in my office.
Highway did a great job. I went down there. I put money in my meter the other day. I was out of town. I had an appointment on Central Avenue. It was all cleaned out.
Last week, they shut off, and it's great, but you can't get to all the streets immediately, and Jimmy will shut off certain streets, but it goes in sections. But like, a number of people complained to me saying, and this is not a complaint to Jimmy, this is just, it was 2 feet of snow, and a lot of people were complaining that they were getting tickets, even though it was almost impossible to get to the meters, and that's, maybe we just gotta tell the parking
Well, I have another, I see the chief back there. Chief, I hate to put you on the spot. We've had another couple of complaints. A lot of people are parking their cars on the street overnight, which I don't necessarily, they're not supposed to, but they're leaving it in the snow. And we're getting complaints that people can't get down the street and no one's getting tickets. And I had the same experience on my block, 3 cars parked in the snow. There was an accident on the Palisades. Everybody was getting off. I couldn't get through. There was like, and these cars are parked in the snow, whatever. So I don't know. I know traffic advisories received complaints. I don't know if there's anything you want to just remind people that, you know, at least when it's snowing, that if they're not supposed to be parked there, they should move their cars or they can get a ticket. But anyway, so that's our 2 complaints for the night.
There was one on Bridge that we got through your office that we did address it.
Yeah.
And maybe a moratorium on tickets for like 24, 48 hours after a major snowstorm, you know,
For meters.
for the meters,
right.
that is.
Yeah, okay.
Something to that effect.
We had him confused. He's like, wait, am I giving the tickets or I'm not giving the tickets? Send the meter guys out to the other guys to get them on the street or whatever. Okay, that's our complaint for tonight. We're done. Okay, thanks, Liz. Thanks. Okay, the next is to accept and receive file some documents in the clerk's office. We have the regular town board meetings, the caretaker agreements, the contracts with the libraries, and Lothrop Associates. We have the vouchers, okay. Okay. So, I don't think anybody signed up. But I guess we have to open the public comment. Can I get a motion to open?
Yeah, Barbara Dell over here, she'll come up.
Okay, so you're moving to open?
Yeah, move to open public portion.
Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Paul Valentine, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so no one signed up, but certainly, anyone? Come on up, Barbara. I'm going to try my new system here. I have found an alarm clock on my computer. I'm going to give it a shot. So when you're ready.
Barbara Dello from Blauvelt. I appreciate the input on the sheds, both from Councilman Divany and Ms. Slavin, who has a lot of years of expertise. And I wanted to mention one more consideration for you. Smaller houses on smaller lots may actually need more storage. They may not have walk-in closets. They may not have, as much storage within the house. It also perhaps may be the case that those people have less means for the fees and the burden of going to the advisory board and I don't know, someone mentioned an architect. I don't know if they were talking about that. But, so in fact, it may be those people who actually need more storage space. So it's just something I learned in my experience living on a very small house at a very small lot. So it might be like a double burden. And then I also wanted to mention that, well, let me say, I think it's always a good idea if the town code meets the needs of the residents, because if not, it kind of invites non-compliance if the people's needs are not being met by the reasonableness of the town code. The second thing I wanted to say is I noticed on the advisory boards that are going to be voted on that the Senior Citizens Advisory Board has less people than a lot of the other boards, and I think there's some unfilled seats there. And I wondered if perhaps that's because of the restrictive nature of what you can talk about in the Senior Citizens Advisory Board. You are not allowed to talk about the needs of seniors in general in the town, or a lot of the problems that seniors have in the town, or the needs of frail seniors in the town. I know that's why I left. I wanted to go help, and I found out I couldn't do anything to help on that board because it's only limited to senior citizens clubs. So I just wondered whether it's worth considering that if people want to help senior citizens, they should be more broad-minded in what is allowed on the Senior Citizens Advisory Board in terms of looking at the needs of the seniors in our town. Thank you so much.
Wow, you timed that almost perfectly. Yeah? Let's see if it rings. No. Okay, didn't ring, but at least I have the timer in front of me for what it's worth. Mike, you want to say anything?
Mike, you're the only one, you're the only one else here.
Okay, then I can, okay, Dennis made a motion to close.
Second.
Tom, second, all in favor?
Aye.
So we're going to move agenda item number 17 up to the front, because we do have soon-to-be Officer Andrew Duggan, or I guess he's already here now, officer, up to the front, so we're going to vote on that one. We're going to make that number 1, or whatever. Can I get a motion to appoint Andrew Duggan to the position of police officer probationary permanent effective February 10? Dennis Troy move. I'll second. All in favor? Aye.
Why don't we move 16 too?
You want to stand up real quick, even though we can't? Congratulations. You deserve that for sitting through this whole meeting, that's what I'm going to tell you.
Teresa, maybe we
Okay.
should do 16
Okay, we're going to
also.
move 16 too while we're here. Okay. Can I get a motion to appoint Brendan Califf to police officer probationary permanent effective February 10, 2021?
Move.
Okay.
One of us moved.
Paul moved it, Tom, did he
Second.
second it? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Congratulations to Orangetown's newest officers. Okay, so where are we going now? Okay, so in fact, number 3, okay. So can I get a motion to appoint the liaisons to the land use and the board committee members? I guess we're doing both. Moved by Jerry? Seconded? Dennis Troy? Oh, we're doing this, okay. All in favor? Aye. A motion to reappoint Blue Hill Golf Course Committee for the 2021 year. We got Paul Valentine move.
Second.
Tom Divany second. All in favor? Aye. Reappoint the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee for 2021. Move Dennis Troy. Second, Jerry Patari. All in favor? Aye. Reappoint the Orangetown Traffic Advisory Board for 2021. Move Paul Valentine, second. Tom Divany, all in favor? Aye. Reappoint the Orangetown Environmental Committee for 2021. Get a motion? Jerry Patari, second. Dennis Troy, all in favor? Aye. Reappoint Michael Mandel to the position Chairman, Board of Ethics for 2021 for a 1-year term.
Moved.
Tom Divany, second. Paul Valentine, all in favor? Aye. Congratulations, Mike. What did he say? What did he say?
Change your form.
Accept state and municipal facilities program grant for the renovations to the Camp Shanks Museum. This side, you gonna get a motion? Dennis Troy, second. Jerry Batari, all in favor? Aye. Set the public hearing date for March 9th, regard to revisions to the town code regarding our fees for dog charges. Can I get a motion? Paul Valentine, second. Tom Divany, all in favor? Aye. Set the public hearing for March 23rd at 7:05 PM for proposed changes to town code regarding signs. Can I get a motion? Jerry Batari. Dennis Troy, second. All in favor? Aye. Motion to the declaration of intention of the town board to serve as the lead agency pursuant to secret on the signs.
Moved.
Tom Divany, second. Paul Valentine, all in favor? Aye. Approve the 2021 agreement with the Hudson Valley Humane Society for the prevention of cruelty to animals. Can I get a motion? Okay. Dennis Troy, second. Jerry Batari, all in favor? Aye. Motion to approve the 2020 certificates of sewer registrations. This side.
Moved. Foley, second.
Yeah, I'll second.
Paul Valentine, second. Tom Divany made the motion. All in favor? Aye. Approve or authorize the town attorney to sign a stipulation of settlement with documents of the tax certiorari for the Palisades Swim Club. Jerry Batari, move. Dennis Troy, second. All in favor? Aye. It's a pretty big one. Okay, we did 16 and 17 already. Number 18, can I get a motion to create the position of clerk part-time in OBSBay? Okay. Paul Valentine, Tom Divany, all in favor? Aye. Approve the agreement for the expenditure of highway monies for the pavement preservation program and improvements and repairs. This side, need a motion. Okay. Dennis Troy, second, Jerry Batari, all in favor? Okay, can I get a motion to approve the caretaker agreement for the 2021 Nike Park 2% increase to the agreement up there?
Moved.
Tom Divany, second, Paul Valentine, all in favor? Accept the memorial bench donation at Broad Acres Golf Course for Vincent Mercogliano. Can I get a motion? Jerry Batari, second. Dennis Troy, all in favor? Aye. Authorize the payment to Applied Golf, and all adjustments for the Blue Hill Golf Course for the year 2020. Do we need a roll call on this? Okay. Paul- Okay. Tom Divany, all in favor? Aye. A motion to amend the parking permit fees and regulations in downtown Pearl River. Am I over here this time? Okay. Dennis Troy moved. Jerry Batari, second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, and get a motion to accept, receive, and file the listed documents in the town clerk's office. Tom Divany, Paul Valentine, all in favor? Okay, on the audit.
Okay, tonight's audit consists of 6 warrants for $1.3 million. The first warrant had 1 voucher for $39,000 and was for the High Tour Animal Shelter. That's a 2020 item. Second warrant had 86 vouchers for $442,000. Items of interest, number 3, Capasso, $68,000 for recycling. Number 4, Global Montello, $18,000 for fuel. Then number 6, Lothrop, $185,000 for the town hall design. Number 11, the state comptroller, $35,000 for justice fines. The third warrant had 36 vouchers for $131,000 and was for utilities. Those are 2020 items. The fourth warrant had 2 vouchers for $330 and was for a street light repair. The fifth warrant had 57 vouchers for $143,000 and was for utilities, 2021 utilities. The sixth warrant had 113 vouchers for $547,000. Items of interest, number 1 and 2, the applied golf contracts. Number 9, general code, $25,000 for the town code on CD. Number 10, Schultz Ford, $79,000 for highway equipment, bonded. And number 11, U.S. Pitch Care, $144,000 for the Blue Hill Bunker project, also bonded money. Any questions on the audit? Okay, thank you.
Now we move to close? Move to close? We make a motion and move to close? Who makes it? You making it? We do this every single time with this stupid audit. I never know if you need a separate. Making a motion. Dennis Troy's making a motion. Second? Paul Valentine. All in favor? Aye. Okay, we're going into executive session. We're not going to be coming out to vote on anything. Just real quick before we finish up, Jim, I meant to earlier to just thank you and your department for the great job that they did during the latest snowstorm. It was, I know they were going, not the latest, that was probably today, but going back to last weekend, I know they were working basically around the clock. You know, with the exception of very few complaints, we get nothing but compliments from your department. So thank you and the guys for the great job that they did. Okay, good. We are going to be adjourning in memory of, we have a couple names here. We have Daniel Joseph Callanan, a resident of Pearl River, Lawrence Tex Goswick, the ex-chief of the Paramount Fire Department, Marion Cole, resident of Nanuet, and mother of Orangetown Justice Court employee Elizabeth Cole, Jared McGibbon, resident of Lindenhurst, and brother of Orangetown Highway Department employee Helen Wilson, and Chester Charles Novoychek, a resident of Pearl River and former member of the Orangetown Auxiliary Police. So, you want to say something?
Father of a
Retired, right, of Orangetown officer, yeah.
I just want to, where do we go in the exec session?
Oh, proposed acquisition, sale, lease, or real property when the
Okay.
publicity might affect the value,
All right, sounds good.
to be specific. Okay,
Need votes on those two,
to go into executive session?
and the adjournment, yeah.
Don't we usually do it as one?
I make
You
a motion
combine
to
them, yeah.
adjourn.
We combine them, okay. And,
We can go to exec session.
Yep.
I second it, Paul.
all in favor?
Aye.
Way too many motions. Way too many motions.